Bye! My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our DUK Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back to another episode of DUK Dogs, everybody. I'm your host, Josh Miller, alongside Mr. Bret Ayers today, and we're actually coming at you live from Arkansas in duck camp. I should repeat that. In Arkansas at duck camp. And we are currently cleaning birds. And so this is going to be a little different. We're not in a quote-unquote studio. We're not in a quiet recording place. But this has just been one of those trips that's been so go, go, go that we need to kill multiple birds with one stone. That's good. Multiple birds with one shot. But still, before we get going, let's make sure to thank our great partners that make this show possible. So first off, thank you to our presenting sponsor in Eukanuba. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend of food that I have my dogs on here at duck camp, but also all year round as we're training and going through our everyday routine. So Eukanuba Sport 3020, www.eukanuba.com. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test ready kennel, both in the intermediate and in the large sizes. So no matter which size of dog you are traveling with, you can make sure that they are traveling as safe as they possibly can. www.luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Kent Cartridge. Kent Cartridge is the shotgun shell choice of our crew. The Kent Bismuth is currently what I am shooting. Absolutely love those shells, love that load. And has that load has shot every bird that we are currently sitting here cleaning. So go check out Kent Cartridge, specifically the Bismuth, and the Fast Steel 2.0 is also another great option. Kent Cartridge. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is your premium option for outdoor clothing, whether it's your everyday wear, whether it is in the field. For us, it is, it is waders, it is jackets, it is keeping us waterproof, it is keeping us dry, it keeps us in the field longer and more enjoyable while we're in the field. So go check them out, www.sitkagear.com. Also, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your premium online option for your training your own dog at home. Whether it is a gun dog, a duck dog, an obedience dog, or just a great family member, www.retrieverroadmap will get you there with your own route. Find your own route with retrieverroadmap.com. Last but not least, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs. Be sure to go check them out and stock up on all of your training needs as training season is just around the corner. And we currently have one of the owners of Gun Dog Supply here. He's currently getting a little cat nap in, and a lot of our fantastic photography that we use is from Mr. Rob Snell. He's just a great person. They're a great company, great products, great customer service. www.gundogsupply.com. Well, here we are in the garage at duck camp. I feel like I can finally start participating here in cleaning some of these birds. I'm always paranoid that I'm going to, without my notes, miss one of the partners, which of course I don't want to do. And when I'm at my desk and I'm prepared, I have a lot more that I can reference back on and make sure that I'm not missing something. But on the fly, it gets a little overwhelming for me. I don't want to miss anybody. So let me kind of talk through with you what we have here. So we have me, myself, We have Mr. Solo behind me, which we're going to talk about him. This dude is absolutely turned into a monster. We have Mr. Bret Ayers beside me. We also have my father, who just got in to camp today. So he's cleaning birds he didn't even shoot. That's a team player. And so we're cleaning these birds, and like I had said in the intro, this trip has just been so go, go, go. We just have not had time. And we not only do we not have time, but anytime we do have, it just seems like we have no energy to get much of anything done. And so it's just been difficult to get these episodes recorded. So we're like, you know what? We're going to sit down. We're going to clean these birds. Let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone and get this done. So we're currently cleaning birds. I'm kind of a freak about organization. And so we are cleaning these birds and keeping everything separate. You are going to hear probably some barking in the background. I promise you, they are not my dogs. They are loud. They bark. So when you hear them in the background, don't be thinking they're one of my dogs, because they are not. So anyway.
Or the UPS man.
Or the UPS man. There's going to be some background noise on this one, but we're just going to see how it goes.
Going to go with the flow and see what happens.
Go with the flow. Here's the other thing that we're doing here this episode, which is a little unique, and I may be jumping the gun here, because if it doesn't work out, we're not going to post it. But we're recording this episode for YouTube. And so the Riverstone Kennels YouTube, or Riverstone, I think we're just going to call it Riverstone, not Riverstone Kennels. Riverstone, we're doing the YouTube page. That one of the objectives for this year is to be much more active on YouTube. The reason being is that we do so much on social media. All of our stories, everything that we have going on goes on our stories. So you see them on Instagram, you see them on Facebook. We have a lot of very positive engagement off of that. Everybody loves following along, which is great. I love showing you and sharing. But the problem is it only lasts for 24 hours. So if you don't see it, you don't catch it, you don't get to see it. And I just don't like that. You know, there's a lot of times where people would like to watch or rewatch, or they have something going on and they can't get it in that time, would like to watch it later on. And so we're trying to do a better version of us, and we're going to be doing more on YouTube. So this is something that if we get these opportunities, recording some of these podcasts in a video format like what we're doing here right now, you know, maybe something that you enjoy, maybe not. But we're going to try to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks and see what people enjoy. So go make sure to subscribe to Riverstone on YouTube, and you'll be able to catch a lot of what we're doing. So you probably notice, if you do follow the Riverstone channel, you've probably noticed that there has been less activity as far as from me on the stories on our hunts, less video footage, less filming, and it's because I have had the phone in my hand less, as Bret has been behind me with the real camera on, getting much better footage than what I ever could. And again, this is all going towards being able to tell a story on YouTube. So make sure that you follow along with that and check that out as we kind of, you know, ease into that new venture.
It'll be fun. It'll be, like you said, Instagram's great, but you only get to see it for 24 hours and it disappears. So you get people like, oh, hey, you know, I saw your story, and they want to go back and watch it again or reference something, and maybe by the time they, you know, have reached out and want to talk about it, it's gone. So it'd be good, like you said, people that don't see it, now will have the opportunity to see it forever.
Right. Well, and a couple of things. There have been a lot of people that will reach out and ask later on, hey, do you have that video? You know, because there was something, you know, some nugget that they wanted to rewatch, or maybe like a train situation that they wanted to be able to see again. And a lot of times I honestly don't, because if I keep all those videos on my phone, it just eats up all of my storage. And so once they're posted, I need to get them off there so that I can do more videos. You can probably imagine, with all the videos, and you do it over, you know, the course of 90 days in a season, it takes up a ton of storage in my phone. And so a lot of times after I post, they're gone, and they're gone then forever, theoretically. So I think this will be a great thing overall. Another reason that we're really digging into the YouTube side of things kind of chuckling to myself because we're being very strategic of keep all the teal together, all the mallards together, all the specks together, because I think they taste different. I think.
Oh, for sure.
I think. So it's just we have this assembly line going of keeping everything together. But one of the other reasons that we're really getting into YouTube is our good friend Brian McClara from Hush. So if you are interested at all in big game, in fishing, specifically fly fishing, the Hush channel or Get Hushin' is a great channel to look at, as they have just done a fantastic job on YouTube and documenting hunts and documenting what they're doing on a regular basis. And when Brian and his wife Corey, when they got their puppy Cruz from Whitney and I, they said right away, they're like, gosh, you guys have all this stuff going on. You really need to be documenting this stuff and putting it on YouTube. And I really took it for a grain of salt. But now, after talking to people, I see where there could be some value there, and where it'd be interesting for for some people to follow along. It's basically Instagram on steroids. But anyway, let's get into the last week or so of the hunt. So
first of all, before we get into that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Don't you start counting.
Is it 4 or 5?
I'm gonna say 5, even though I'm sure it's 4. and I'm trying to. I'm apparently a terrible multitasker because I can't be talking and breasting these birds out at the same time. So I guess if I just keep talking, that means I have an excuse to not be cleaning as many birds.
Can you pass me the bucket of teal meat, please?
Yes, I can.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Thank you. So, Bret, give me a quick rundown of what your initial thoughts are of the last week or so of season.
Yeah, it's it's kind of going in line with our whole season so far. I think we've had last time I was down here was in Thanksgiving with your dad, your brother, my son Mason, and we struggled for a couple days, and then we found this new farm, and we had a couple of very successful days. So, and I know talking to some of the locals down here that that you're friends with, and things around Christmas time were really good. And then the weather kind of just stalled out around here. So there's been lots of birds. When I got down here, there's been a lot of birds on the big farm that you have permission to hunt, that you've leased, but you can tell they've been shot at. They've been on there. There's no hide. So the farmer came in, he's burnt off all the dikes, for these fields, where they're flooded, so he's burnt all those off. So there's literally no cover. So when you brush a blind, even though how good you brush it, it still kind of sticks out,
It really sticks out.
It really sticks out. So that's been the biggest thing. We've shot some birds, especially early in the morning, you get the birds that come in. But it seems like a little decoy shy, blind shy, and I hate to use the word, but just stale. They've been down here. They've probably been down here a while. There's so many pintails that are on the big farm right now. But they do the same thing. They come in, they lock up, they circle, and move on. So, we've hunted a couple of other pieces of property, just like this morning. We went with one of our buddies, Nick. He scouted this blind that we hunted this morning, and all the ducks last night were on this blind. Well, of course, when we get there today, all the ducks went to the blind that they hunted yesterday. So it's just been one of them things, and it's a lot of work. We actually even went back up to one of the original leases, drove an hour and a half, got up at 3:30 or 3:40, whatever it was, and got on the road, drove all the way back up there. And it was kind of cool to be back in there. We saw some ducks, shot a few ducks. Nice to get in the woods. That was Brian's, first true timber hunt. So it was cool to be in there. But same thing, by the time the sun come up, it just the ducks were just kind of circling around. They fly over the hole. Let it be them hole shy or decoy shy or whatever it was. They just call shy. They just it's been tough. It's been a grind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all the above, right? I think they're call shy, decoy shy, hole shy, blind shy, spinner shy. I mean, just the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah.
And this is one of the things, what's so interesting about this to me is the different style of hunting, especially from what I'm used to up in the Midwest. And I get a lot of my buddies that have not hunted down here, don't really travel to hunt much, that, they'll hear me talk about that and be like, well, just go scout. Just drive around, go knock on doors and get permission. Yeah, that's what we do at home, but you really don't have that option here.
No.
Everything is leased. Everything is money. And, I mean, other than hunting public, which has major challenges in its own right.
Yeah.
I mean, we are fortunate to have, we have thousands of acres between the farms that we have access on. And, we let farms sit. We come back to them. We scout them. We get in there when we feel like birds are there. We're educated in what we're doing, and we're still not being super successful. Now, we're being more successful than I would say most people when we talk to them, but it's still not what we'd really be hoping for. And I think the frustrating part is that the birds are here, is just how stale they are. It really does make things challenging.
Yeah, we had a lot of weather early. Talking to, again, all the locals, they had a really, really good season early, from Thanksgiving, like you said, to around Christmas time.
And so did we.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just been, it's the same birds, been here. So it's been tough. It's been fun. Even you can strategize all you want, and try to come up with different plans. We've used different tactics ourselves, and just I've had some success, but yeah, you got to work for the ones you're getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's hard. I want to talk about the grind of this a little bit, because I always hit this point at some point during the season, and I'm in it right now, and it's kind of a mental block, right? Because for me, been at this for a lot of days this season already. You need a bird?
Yes, please.
Been at this for a lot of days already this season. A lot of days. That's a lot of time on the road. It's a lot of time in the field. That's a lot. You can talk about, the early alarms and the long days and all kind of stuff, which that certainly wears me, especially the long day part. And it's difficult at this stage in the season to stay completely chipper and to be happy and excited and everything else. And all it takes is really one or two, people that I talk to remind me that there's a lot worse things that I could be doing to kind of get me back at it. But it still is it's getting over that mental hump and not getting drugged down by it. And that's something that's a real challenge. I know, Rob, who we talked about, owner of Gun Dog Supply, he's feeling that too. You had talked about that, and it's inevitable, right? I mean, it's just one of those things that, especially when you hit a point in the season where the birds don't want to cooperate, so you're doing the whole show for sometimes, 2 birds. It's a little discouraging, but you give it another week when season gets out, and we're going to be counting down the days until, November 20th again, or whatever it is, to get back down here and do it again. So as much as you want to feel a little drugged down, you also, you want to stay optimistic, and you want to capitalize on what you have while you have it. And then we'll start training season all over again.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast it goes. It seems like, and of course, me being older, I can, show my age by saying, time just flies, which it does,
Back in my day.
Back in my day. But, it's just very, it goes by fast. And yes, there's days where you're like, man, I'm just ready to pack it all up and, shut the book for the year and get in the training season and doing all that. But, that first week when season's out, or even the first couple of days, you're like, man, I wish I was back out in the field.
Yeah, so I dropped BMAC Brian, Hush Brian, off at the airport this morning, and we talked about that same thing, because they do a lot of big game hunts, a lot of elk hunts where they're packed in and they're, 10, 12, 15 days, and, everybody's chipper and raring to go on day one. You start getting to days 8, 9, 10, especially if there's not activity, weather's not cooperating, all those things, people start getting wore out and drugged down. And so he's like, we go through the same thing, but it's amazing how you get back home, 4 or 5 days of rest, and you're like, all right, let's go again, and it's amazing what, just some rest and some rejuvenation will do. For us, well, actually, Brett, for both of us, the running home for a few days to rejuvenate is not an option.
Right.
Especially because the dog standpoint. So for me, I'm sitting here 15 plus hours away from home. I've got currently 5 dogs with me, and it's not something that I can just jet home for a few days and come back without it being a real hassle, right? I mean, that's just a lot of driving, a lot that goes into that. It's just easier to stay put and grind it out. And yeah, I mean, you could take a few days off and sleep in a few days, but I mean, when you're here, you might as well be out.
Right.
So these are certainly problems that are pretty weak problems to be talking or complaining about. But it's part of the grind. I want to talk about specifically the dog that's sitting behind me right now for a little bit, and Solo. Because he is probably, him and Strike, I think, have been my 2 standouts here in the last week. And Solo in particular, because he's in his first real season, and he has had to encounter a number of challenges this week in particular, because we've had to get so creative with how we're hunting. And so one of the things we did is we got completely away from the blinds, because these birds are so blind shy. Like Bret was saying, I mean, you can brush a blind all you want, but if there's no brush for that brush to blend into, you're just a block of grass that looks very inordinary, unordinary. Inordinary is not a word, I don't think. Very unordinary in the middle of a wide open nothing. And these birds, they're used to this kind of stuff. And so they're just not, they're not wanting to finish, not wanting to do the deal. So for us,
that's the neighbor, by the way.
That's the neighbor. Yeah, just, there's more activity than what we were expecting. So we were getting in ditches, and we were really focusing on trying to hide without having much of a hide, So we literally lay in ditches, like Rob in his camera gear outfit that he has, he was laying in a ghillie suit. I mean, just anything that we could possibly do to hide. Okay, I'm just going to make a comment here.
Are we done?
Yeah, I think this is
Almost.
the last one. I guess we got a couple mallards over there with my dad. I don't understand they're just letting dogs bark.
I don't either.
I mean, how does this not drive you nuts?
Yep.
I mean, it drives me nuts, obviously, being a neighbor in this, and this is not a long-term house for us, so it is what it is. But I don't understand that thought process. Like, how are you okay with that?
Yeah.
How are you okay with your dogs just roaming? Don't know where they are, just out roaming around. That's my little soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different in areas. I have people at home, neighbors, same thing. They just have different expectations for their dogs. And, I'm not for sure what the history behind this dog is, but I know every time we've pulled up here, he's usually barking at us, usually in his kennel, fenced-in kennel in the backyard. So right now, I don't know what he's barking at. But, yeah, to me, I'm with you. I don't like it. It drives me crazy, especially when people don't come correct it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if they're home or if they're not, but if they are home.
I mean, this is nonstop.
Yeah, it's
this
been
is
nonstop.
all the time. Just crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Solo. So we're hiding in ditches. We're doing some things that are a little unconventional as far as, like, we haven't trained for that. We haven't trained for that kind of a setup and kind of what we have going on. Oh, my gosh. I want to absolutely lose my mind with that dog. So,
A stern quiet would be good
oh
right
my
about now.
gosh. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I should order, if we were going to be here for more than a week, I would order one of those birdhouse ultrasonic, they're little ultrasonic, bark sensors.
Yep.
And it's funny because if you talk to the company that produces them at PetSafe, which I have, they'll tell you that like 80-90% of those are bought by neighbors of dogs that bark.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they put it like in a tree next to it, and so when the dog barks, it has that ultrasonic, sound that makes him stop. It's kind of funny. But anyway, so Solo we've had in a lot of situations he is not trained for, and this is why I talk so much about being a little unconventional with your training. Don't always train in the same exact setup, in the same exact blind, in the same exact routine, because the reality is in a hunting situation, you're not going to be able to have the same kind of a setup all the time. Do we try closing the garage door? Like what? Like this is just incredibly annoying to me. I hope that it is not as heard on your guys' end as it is on mine, but
there we go.
thank goodness.
Somebody,
it's about time.
Somebody said something.
You might be able to have heard that. Well, hopefully you hear the quiet now.
I don't know if that was the owner or if it was a neighbor.
It might have been Rob. Rob might have got woken up from his nap and had enough of it.
Rob.
Oh gosh. So
Back to the task.
My blood pressure like got cut in half immediately.
Solo.
So train in different.
Yeah,
One of the neighbors is not happy. That's what it is.
not happy.
So the setup that we had specifically that really impressed me was Solo had to be on the other side of this ditch. So we were laying in the ditch on one side, but there was no cover and there was nowhere for him to sit. And so, it was so steep. I mean, we were literally laying on our stomachs and almost standing up. It was so steep. And so Solo was sitting on the, there's a big ditch on the other side. So he's realistically 20, 25 yards away up on the other side because there was some cover. He could sit back. And, he had birds. Then he would mark and I would send him and he'd go down the ditch, up the other side, go make the retrieve, and then have to go remote sit back. And especially for a young dog to be so composed away from my side, probably feeling a little uncomfortable because he's not by my side. He's not in a blind. He's not in something that is comfortable to him to say, hey, this is where I am. This is where I should be. One, speaks to the importance of obedience. I know everybody wants to get to the sexy stuff and the big blinds and the doubles and triples and yada, yada, yada. But it all comes down to obedience, right? Like, so he doesn't get to go pick up those doubles if he's not obedient in the first place, because we're never going to finish those ducks, which means he never gets those retrieves. And this is a little bit of an extreme example, but it's just one of those situations that I just go back to obedience. It's so important. As if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see he's sitting here behind me, happy as a clam, happy as can be. Good grief. If you guys are hearing the yelling in the background, this is just this neighborhood that we're in. So we last second leased this house to be closer to our new lease, so we're driving an hour and a half back and forth. But anyway, obedience, very obedient. I do believe that redshirting him last season, or at least the majority of last season, if you guys remember last season, I talked about how I had to throw him in late season due to an unsafe situation that he had to get thrust into. I'm not going to get into that now. Go back and listen to probably last December, Solo's Montana hunt. That was his first ever hunt. But I think all of that time in North Dakota, in Wisconsin, in Missouri, sitting and being patient, sitting and watching, that helped lead to all that. And quite frankly, led to this, led to him being able to be in these situations that we didn't prepare for, but then be good with it and be completely calm and chill. And so he's really stood out to me, especially this week. We had a real scare. Did we talk about that on an episode? I can't remember if we talked or not. Clyde. Yeah, did we talk about that?
I think you talked about it with Whitney.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. So, Clyde had his pneumonia, so he's out. He's doing great. Thank you again for everyone's thoughts and prayers and comments on that. So he's loving life, carrying sandals around or slippers around, being Mr. Camp Dog.
I can't ever find my shoes every morning.
No, there's never two shoes together ever because he always has to be carrying one around. Brock just today got back in the game because he had a freak injury where we don't know how, he must have caught his lip on something and literally ripped his lip in half. I think he had 8 or 9 stitches, had to get sewn up, and so he was out for the last couple of weeks. Bud was coughing, and so I've kept him out in fear of him potentially getting a pneumonia case. It almost sounds like kennel cough, but none of the other dogs have gotten affected by it, and kennel cough is very contagious, and so I'm just being safe with him. So it was really down to Strike and Solo there for a while, and it was just back and forth. I'd trade off hunts with them. Strike is fantastic. We hunted Strike a lot with Brian because Brian has a Strike puppy, and so it was just kind of that sentimental thing.
With some Brock background.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, I mean, that dog is probably an awesome little puppy. I have not got to see him because Brian lives in Utah, and Cruz is, I think, 7 months old, somewhere in there, so I haven't got to see him since he left. But, Brian can't say enough great things about him. They absolutely adore him. But Strike is just, he's become that dog that I expect these things from him now. I expect those big blinds and the under control and he has a level of calm that you just don't see from many dogs. But this dog has a lot of that too.
Oh yeah.
Solo has that. Like he's a puppy yet. You get him out in the yard and he's jumping, he's excited, but when it's game time, he has this different game face. And he's calm and he's chill and he's collected. But you say his name, and he is a motor. Mm-hmm. And so it's been really fun seeing him in these different environments and how he's handled that. And I've been really, really proud of him. I think he's got a really bright future and a lot of really great things coming forward with him. So the other thing I want to go over is Brock today, because I thought that was very interesting. Okay, so we just having stale birds. We kind of bounced around with a few of our buddies, and our buddy Nick was like, hey, I've got a field that was holding about 500-600 mallards. Was sitting right in front of the blind yesterday. We're gonna go hunting in the morning, and of course, Nick being Nick, he's like, make sure you bring Brock, and I'm like, great, because this is the first day he can get back into it. So we get there, and they built this like Taj Mahal of a blind. How many holes did we think it had?
I think 10.
10 holes.
Yeah.
Cook station and back.
Yep.
Big thing. Super comfy.
Yep.
Very comfortable. But it was across, you had to go across a deep ditch before you hit the field that the decoys were sitting in. And he had these dog ramps, one on each side they were long. I don't know how long they were.
They were long.
30 feet?
I would, somewhere in there.
Somewhere.
Yep.
And it was over this ditch. And so, the dogs had to go up. And so here's a blind. Although Brock has been in and out of many blinds, he has not been out of this one. And this poses some challenges that if he were to, say, slip and fall on a frosty morning, say falls in that ditch, one, he could get hurt. Two, he could not have the confidence, to go do it again. Mm-hmm. And so I walked on the outside with him and, walked him right up to that ramp. I just pointed and said, kennel. He walked up there, went in the kennel, called him back, walked. I bet I did that 15, 20 times, back and forth, to the point he knew, I can walk across here. I know how to get back and forth. I know that that's my spot. And once I get out, I know how to come back in. And, those are the little things that set you up for success versus failure in those types of situations. You put yourself in their shoes. We look at it and be like, yeah, this is a blind just like any other blind. Mm-hmm. Not to them. And so taking the 4 minutes it took me to do that, just made him that much more confident, that much more comfortable. And I take a seasoned dog like Brock, probably not as important as a dog like this,
right,
that has never been in a situation like that.
Yep.
And, just giving that dog that confidence. Now, ideally, I would love to have a bumper and throw in some retrieves for a young dog. Mm-hmm. Again, I had a seasoned dog with me. I didn't feel like I needed to do that with Brock, but if I had Solo, I for sure would have. Mm-hmm. And we went through the gamut as far as experiences today leading up to getting in that blind, right? So here's the chaoticness that we had today. So, we're in the truck to the field. Then we unload the side-by-side, ride the side-by-side out into the field, which we're pulling a boat, and then we put the boat in the channel. And then we ride the boat down the channel to the blind. And it was like everything you could possibly do. And then we get there, and Nick's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, Millie's in heat," which is his dog. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," So then we had to be very strategic on, okay, we need to make sure that these two stay apart. One of these dogs is out on retrieve at a time. They're never to cross paths for obvious reasons while they're out. And now Brock did very well with it, but he was under control from the get-go. I mean, this is one of the things we talk about, not letting – there's just not a reason to let your dog run wild, beforehand. Start with control, do your work, end with control. You start with control, you're not allowing the dog to lose their mind. It's like, hey, go run around and go crazy and go nuts, and then come in and sit here and be quiet and calm. Like, that's a huge switch for a dog to flip, especially a young dog. And we've had some comments of people that go, man, like, I need my dog to get their energy out, so I let them run around while we're setting up decoys. I'm going to say that dog probably has a really difficult time coming back and just chilling out and being quiet and being calm. And so starting with control, ending with control, it's how you train.
Right.
Yep. Practice how you play.
Yep.
Right? Play how you practice. Same thing.
Yep. Yeah, put yourself in that dog's shoes. You get out to the spot. He's already excited. Probably knows, he's got the feeling of what's going on. Running all over the place. All right, now sit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like you said, that's a huge switch to turn off.
Huge.
So
huge. Last thing I want to touch on right here, as my dad is finishing up the last duck, is I had kind of a proud moment on Whitney's last day as she shot her first band, and that was a super special thing for me because I really love that time in the field when she's here. Yeah, it's just especially when I'm gone so much, and she gets such limited time to do this. Little things like that just make things that much more special. And I didn't even realize it right away. So she had shot a bird, and who's with me?
I think it was Bud.
Was it Bud?
I think.
Strike. I think it was Strike.
Strike. Yeah.
Strike retrieved the first couple birds, and she had shot one, and he had got back to me, and I was working more birds right away, and I put that bird down, work, and birds didn't finish, and so I just kind of relaxed, and more birds started coming, and I looked over at Strike to say sit or just make sure he was where it's supposed to be, and I looked, and I caught it out of the corner of my eye, and I actually did one of these, like jump back, like, oh my gosh, what in the world? And so I saw it, I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, and then I was like calling, and anyway, grabbed that bird and walked it over to her. I was like, hey, remember that last bird you shot? And showed it to her, and she couldn't believe it. And I don't know what we're going to do with it. We're going to do something special with it, but those are those little memories, like,
oh, yeah.
I don't remember how many birds we killed on that hunt, but I remember that one, and so it's that that's special. I know you had a situation like that with Mason here this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mason's his spec was pretty cool, which I know we talked about on the podcast, but it's actually been a couple years ago. Mason had shot a goose. It was his first band. Had a pair of geese come in. I shot one. He shot one. At the time, my dog River, because I didn't have Timber or Deuce at the time, went out, brought mine back, and where I hunt, we used to shoot bands all the time. Mm-hmm. Hunt next to a refuge where they had a banding program, which they no longer do for Canada geese. So anyhow, he go out and get the second bird, brings back it's double leg band. It's got an aluminum band and a stainless steel band.
Cool.
So what was really cool about it was, first of all, his first band, so total ecstatic. But what was really cool about it was a guy 3 hours away. I posted a picture on Instagram, Facebook. This guy saw it, reached out to me. He's like, hey, what were the digits on that? And he shot a bird 1 digit apart 3 hours away from me.
That's cool.
On the other side of Ohio.
That's cool.
So it was really just a cool moment, just to see the excitement of him. And, just when I was a kid, and I hate to say this, but when I was a kid, you shot a lot of bands.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you don't shoot a lot of bands. And, to see that excitement in him was pretty special. So I just want to hit on 3 cool things my highlights so far of this trip
There you go.
before we wrap this up. Number one, having Thad and Brian down. Punted with Thad, known Thad from his days in Sitka. He's now at Mountain Ops. Super fun to hang out with him. First time hanging out with Brian. Super cool dude. You know, him and I are the same age, so we were the kind of the old guys of the crew, which was cool because we related on a lot of things, you know, from music to just, you know, the way we dressed back in the day, you know, to all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, Rob was talking about his band days, and
Yeah.
you know, I think Brian was like, "So, what did you do? Were you like a '70s cover band?" I looked at Brian, I was like, "Back then, it was just called a band."
Just a band. That's right. That's exactly right. Number two was the crawfish boil. The neighbors, they were gracious. Even though it's not the neighbors that have the barking dog. It's the other neighbors.
That's right.
But they invited us over for a crawfish boil, which is really out of season here. The guy that had brought him up was from Louisiana, and he caters to parties or whatever, and had some extra crawfish. So
That was fantastic.
We got to eat some crawfish last night. Which, if you've never ate crawfish or, you know, an official, authentic crawfish boil, do so. It's delicious.
That's right. Dad, have you ever had crawfish?
Just
just in a Folgers can? Oh, like catching them as a kid? Well, so we got to take him to Hoodats.
Hoodats.
Yeah,
that
which
place
is a Cajun place that's a little bit away from here, but we'll do that.
Yeah, that's delicious. But number three, Strike's retrieve.
Strike's blind.
His blind.
Yeah.
For not only because I've witnessed his blinds before, it's just super fun to watch, but to see Brian, his reaction, having a Strike puppy, wanting to hunt over Strike, you know, that whole deal, and watching a spec that had fallen out. It was 300 yards, roughly 300 yards.
He's run double that this year.
Right. But lots of challenges, again, on that particular blind, and watch that and see Brian's reaction, and, you know, he was just totally stoked to see that. So it's just cool to see people, and he's not really a waterfowl guy. So, you know, to watch that all come together, like him and I had we drove to the field this morning together, and he was just super stoked, you know, just a lot of questions about, you know, the advanced side of things and all this stuff. So I really want to get into this. So that's pretty cool. That was my third highlight, I guess.
You know what that does for me? It makes me realize how easily we take some of this for granted.
Oh, yep.
You know, like I look at that 300-yard blind, I'm like, yeah, you know, I expect you to do that.
Right.
Like you've done double that, you know, this year. But to have someone that has never seen that before, and when we shot that spec, I mean, it was one of those that we shot. You knew it was hit, and I think you might have been the ones like watch that bird, and it went and sailed and did one of these and kind of sailed down. And I think a lot of people in that situation would either go, like, we're not getting that bird, or walk out there, try to get the dog out there. That bird that still had life in it would have got up, you know, stayed 10 feet off the ground, went for another half mile, and it would have been a goat rodeo and probably would not have recovered, you know, that bird.
Yep.
And to have, especially someone that's never seen that before, go be successful in a very crisp, clean blind, have him go pick that bird up and recover that bird. I mean, he was blown away.
Oh, yeah.
And it was one of those things that, again, like, we need that sometimes. I need that sometimes.
Right.
I need that to just check myself and go, look, like, take a moment and appreciate this. Take a moment and enjoy all the work and all the things that have gone into this. Like, smile about it.
Yep.
Have fun with it.
Yep.
And that's why I love people like Brian and Thad, because they're just fantastic human beings. And to surround yourself by fantastic people makes you more of a fantastic person yourself. And so I love having those people around for that. But then just the different insights that they all give. Like, I lean on all these guys from, you know, not only friendships, but business ideas and different thoughts and expertises that they have. But like Brian is about as seasoned of a big game, specifically elk hunter, as you could ask for. Like, if I'm going to go do that, I'm going to Brian, right? What do I need? How do I gear up? What do I do when I get there? I'm probably going to go with him so I don't completely kill myself, right? And like get in a successful situation, which is exactly what he did here, right? Go with the guys that do the waterfall.
Yep.
And it's been a really fun, you know, thing there. But again, different light, you know, shed on some of this stuff. Like, smile, like it loved that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they loved that, which made me love it, which made the whole thing even that much sweeter.
For sure. Yeah, Thad, I know in Montana last year when we were, was it last year or 2 years ago? Must have been 2 years ago. He was on that banger goose hunt we had. Brock had a pretty long blind on that.
So did Bud on that.
And
Bud had some great retrieves on that one.
Yep. Yeah, because I was running Bud on
That's right.
on one end and you were running Brock on the other end. But yeah, so it was great to have those guys in. We've got your dad here now, and we've got another week.
So we're going to grind it. Before I get done, I want to shout out Williams Knives.
Yes.
That's what we're using here, these bird knives. These are fantastic. Again, great product, but great people.
Yes.
And so I love that. So thank you guys for the knives and for all the support that you guys also give us too. So we're gonna go get these birds cleaned up, get them in some marinade because we will be eating all of these birds here this week, and we've eaten a lot of duck.
Mm-hmm.
Eaten a lot of duck and a lot of speck. I love specks.
Oh yeah.
A lot of ducks and a lot of speckled bellies here. But we have one more week of it, and then I probably will be eating very little ducks and geese for the next month. I think beef and salads are on the menu. So
and lots of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So got to get those Mountain Op greens.
That's right.
Thank you guys for spending another time here with us as we were cleaning birds. You helped us kill our multiple birds with one shot here as we got more things done in a more timely manner. So we have a few hours of daylight here. We're going to go scout. We're going to go try to get on where we think these birds are going to be in the morning so we can kind of dial that in and have some dinner and do it all over again. So, all right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.